Hi guys, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a really interesting, maybe weird, maybe fun, hopefully video that is all about the Rustic 7 challenge. So I was going to call it a craft with me video, but honestly, no one will probably craft with the items I get today because I have no idea what I'm getting today. And before I go down that rabbit hole, let me give you just a little nutshell of what we're doing today. Sonia from Germany, who is on, I believe she's on Barbara from 49 Dragonflies design team. She asked her husband, hey, hubby, can you get me 7 items that you don't think are craft related? Because I want to challenge myself and see if I can make a piece of ephemera out of them. And she also asked him for any parameters for this challenge. So her husband designed a challenge for her. He picked 7 items that were not craft items. He told her she could use 1 piece of graph paper and she could use her basic supplies like tape and glue and gesso and paints, things like that. But she couldn't add other things to them. She couldn't add pretty ribbons. She couldn't add like scrapbook paper or normal things we use. So this is really about being creative and looking at objects not the way that they're intended. So this challenge started, it's making its way through other YouTubers around the world. It's so fun to see how people are interpreting these things. And of course, my friend Aloha nominated me and I thought, sure, I'll do it. And at first I was going to ask my husband, and then I thought, oh, he knows me too well. He'll probably pick things that are fairly easy for me. But I knew who I could pick. I was on my way out the door for a girls' weekend, and I knew if I told them about this challenge, first of all, they are not in this paper world, and most of them are not even really aware of what I really do behind the scenes, so they're not going to be picking knowing what I do. And they're crazy. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be challenged, these girls will definitely challenge me. So right now, I'm going to open the items and I'm going to have to make them work. And this will probably be the first time my friends actually even watch a video. And my friend Linda, right now, I can tell you, she's freaking out over all of this crap behind me. Yes, I can see you, Linda, and I can hear you judging. But that's okay. I love her and I love them and they are crazy and I can only imagine what is in this bag. So let's open the bag and see what I have in store. Okay, friends, here we are. We're going to open the bag. I was supposed to bring a sandwich bag so that I could, make sure that there was something small for them to stow things in, but I forgot. So this is the bag that I'm coming home with, but I told them, don't put anything that big in the bag. And I really don't know what's in this bag. So let's see. I'm just going to put my hand in and reach in for anything. Okay. I'm feeling paper. What am I seeing? Oh, so there was we went to Maine and there was an amazing bakery there that we love to go to called the Holy Donut. And they make donuts that are like crack out of potato flour. They make them out of potatoes and they are amazing. So they have gotten me a little card from the Holy Donut. That's the name of it. And it is let's see if you can see, it is like a little rewards card. So that's pretty easy. That's a piece of paper. I'm happy about that. I mean, nothing on the card I would want to use, although this piece down here is kind of interesting with the numbers and the stamp. So I definitely might rip that off. So that, there's some textures of the coffee beans. It's not bad. Thanks, girls. That's a good start. I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling hopeful. What is this? What the cluck? What the cluck am I supposed to do with that? It's a little plastic rubber chicken. I know exactly the store that they bought this at. Oh my gosh. How am I going to use that, people? Oh, it's an interesting one. Okay. All right. We'll figure this guy out. Now I'm really nervous. Now I'm really nervous. All right, we went to a cool, like, little boutique with clothes, and they got me a bumper sticker. So it's kind of paper. It's a sticker. So that's interesting. This is a possibility. This is kind of from our world. The lamination on it will be a little challenging, but I can work with this. This is at least something I can understand rather than a chicken. But let's see what else is in there. A dog biscuit. A dog biscuit. A perishable item that can mold. Not sure I can use this permanently, but I still could use it. It doesn't mean I have to hold on to whatever I make for like a bunch of years. And I will have to keep it up high or else my dog will eat whatever I make. But this is definitely not a craft item and definitely will challenge me. All right, so that's 4 items. Really? Really? This is what you girls, nice. I'm sure you know what a joke this is for me because you knew I'd be on camera having to work with this. Yes, folks, a panty liner. I don't know if that's what they're called in all the parts of the world, but any woman will know what this is. With the little sticky tab in the inside. Do you girls love me or do you girls hate me? Oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't even know. I really don't even know. So that's it, guys. These are my 5 items that I need to turn into a craft project. Okay, that was 5 items. And for a moment there, I thought that's all I had to work with. I forgot I have 7 items. So I need to go back into that bag. I think the liner just threw me. So I'm gonna go back in. Okay, I know where this came from. This came from my girlfriend's gin drink. This was her little garnish. So it's a little natural element. I can work with a little natural element, so that's interesting. Probably still smells like the drink. Yes, it smells like gin. Okay, let me go back in the bag. There isn't anything else in the bag. Okay, I'm back. I just called my friends. There was another item. It was stuck under the flap of the bag. So we did our nails with Color Street this weekend, and my friend Linda put in her coming in hot pinky nail. It's like a sticker. It's stick-on nail polish. So there's some bling there, and that could be fun. So here are my items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I wanted a challenge. So I love you girls. Let me see what I can do with this. Okay, so here we are. Here we are with my 7 items that I need to make into some kind of piece of ephemera. I obviously know that this isn't going to be a problem. And while this isn't, you know, it's shiny and it's sticky, isn't probably my favorite. Again, lots of material here. This I'm not worried about. This I'm not worried about because I will use it as a sticker and I'll probably lose it. So I'm going to put it actually off camera so I don't lose it. This I am worried about. But this little guy, I have no clue. So I'm actually going to take this piece off camera too, and the chicken. And so I'm going to take the things that I will add color to and make a palette. And I'm just going to sort of jump in and see where this leads. I have no plan and I really don't know. The only thing that right away jumped off at me was I don't mind this design. So I think I am going to isolate that design from the rest of the piece. I'm going to sort of cut around it and see if this could make like a really interesting element to whatever it is I end up making. Oh, I need my graph paper too. Oh, I'll grab that in a minute. Let's see if I can cut this out. I'll cut this first. This will make it easier. I knew asking these girls it would be challenging and funny and a little bit sadistic because I knew they would not make it easy for me and they knew I'd be on camera and they probably wanted to torture me just a little. So I'm not sure what I'll do, and this will be the only time they probably have. And you know, I know one of my friends watches me, but nobody else does in the group, and there's 5 of us all together, so there's 4 girls. Maybe the others will tune in for this, just out of curiosity. Okay. It's actually easier making videos for people you don't know than people you do know, if that makes sense. All right, I don't mind that element. It's kind of funky cool. I'm not a big fan of the white or the blue, but that's not going to limit me. I'm not going to cut this yet because I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I think I'm going to tear this little piece off here because this is got some interest for me. This not so much, but I'll probably alter this and then that'll be okay. Now let's take apart this thing. I don't even know what to do with this. First of all, I don't really want the stickiness on the back of that pad, and this is just horrendously awful to even think about using. But I suppose it could be used sort of like washi tape. It will be my last choice of anything I use. I think what I'm going to do is just cut around the pad and see if I can pull the padding off without getting the plastic part, if that makes sense. Nope, it's coming off anyway. I don't want that plastic. I want the plastic to be separate. I may have to, I'll put that aside. I don't know what I'm going to do with that mess. I want this like sticky plastic part to be separated from like the cottony part. Oh, my dogs are barking. Probably getting a delivery from the mailman. And my dogs were just barking like crazy, so I turned off the sound here, and I just can't get this open. It's just stuck, so I'm just putting it on my desk and pulling it up to get the stickiness off. I'm just going to keep trying to stick it and pull it up just to try to, so it's not sticky anymore. Bet you this is a first for you guys, seeing somebody work with a feminine protection pad in a craft project. This could be my worst viewed video, or perhaps my best. We'll see. It's still pretty sticky, but it's not even close to what it was. All right, so I'm going to grab a piece of, graph paper so that I have all my paper pieces in one place. All right, I have a blue and white and a kind of a green with white. And I don't know which one I'm going to pick. And I might alter them both and then pick whichever one I like best. And if you think I'm cheating, you have to give me a little bit of play or a little bit of leniency, considering I have a dog biscuit, a chicken, and a feminine pad. I promise I won't use both, but I might use whichever one goes best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some coffee, and we're going to start with coffee. Okay, I have some coffee and some permanent inks, some alcohol inks. I have these tearaway palettes that I'm going to use to mix the colors, just because I just don't want to put India ink in any dishes. Okay, now I'll get a couple brushes. I'm going to actually go submerge these in coffee off camera because it's just easier. Since my non-craft friends will be watching, I want to explain to them that I'm putting the craft paper in a dish full of coffee. And that's going to stain the paper and give it texture and make, hopefully, the paper more interesting once it's time to work with it. I'm just going to put it aside. Okay, so now we have our other things. I'm going to start with this first, and I think we need a little sandpaper. Because it's so shiny, I need to scuff it up, or else nothing is going to be able to stick to this. I need it to be able to take whatever it is I add to it. And I may just gesso this, honestly. This may be the best thing for me to do, is gesso this one, so that I at least have some kind of blank, thick paper that I can work with. So that's scruffed up pretty good. It kind of also mutes the writing and does add like these little textural lines. So this, I think I am going to keep as artwork. So let's scuff this up so it will take maybe ink, or I don't know what will happen. It's a complete experiment, but I think I am going to use alcohol inks on this. I have no idea what it will do, but I think it will be fun to try. I don't usually work with blues, but I don't also usually work with panty liners. So there's a first for everything. And if I can make this work, then I guess my husband will say there's no reason I should have expensive arts and crafts materials, because I can clearly work with other things. All right, my hands and my manicure are already suffering. Okay, so there's our scuffed up front. I'm going to see what the coffee does. Let me move this a little bit. Give myself just a slightly bigger space for you to see. Okay. I'm not sure that the coffee is going to actually do anything on the front of this, because it's completely coated. It's a completed coated item, and I'm not sure that it will stain it, but we'll let it sit there for a minute and see what happens. And then we will definitely dip this piece in coffee. And let me tell you, like, this is what my little smart-ass friend gave me. I can't tip it or I'll spill it, but it's all about flowers, but kind of like naughty ones. if you know what I mean. Same friend who probably put the liner in the back. Okay, so now this has coffee on both sides. We'll leave that there. This I'm going to gesso, so I'm going to sand this as well. I don't mind the coffee though, so maybe I'll leave that a little lighter on the gesso. But this I'm going to really scuff up. And this I'll really scuff up. Okay. What else do I have? I have the liner, but I don't need to do that. So since I'm going to do gesso here, I'll move that aside. Let's continue on with like these kinds of products. So we all know what a liner does. So it should take the coffee really easily, right? Shouldn't it take the coffee pretty well? It's doing its job, folks. Okay, and I am now doing a voiceover, and I am speeding up the film because I'm doing a bunch of experimenting with the alcohol inks and the India inks, similar to what I would do with a piece of paper. The problem is the way that a sanitary napkin is created. It is created to draw water down and then hold it against this plastic, and it doesn't really dry. Things aren't working on this material the way I'm used to having things work. And I keep adding color, adding coffee, then I'll squeeze it out, and then I'll try some more, and then I'll try again. And I keep trying different techniques, and honestly, nothing is really coming out. The inks aren't spreading the way they usually spread. The colors don't interact the way the colors usually interact. And it's because the napkin's doing its job. It's doing what it's supposed to do, not because it was never meant to be an art material. So finally, I just get extremely frustrated, and I take it in the other room and I put it under the water and I squeeze it out, and it becomes almost white again. You can almost see that right there. Do you see how it became so very white? But I just keep on trying. You know, I keep thinking I'm going to get it. And in the end, I just kind of give up on this and take it in the other room to put water on it, squeeze it out, and start over. And when I'm starting over, I put it under my heat gun. And as you can see, it got really, really light. And when I started to dry it, it started separating from that plastic part in the back, which gives me the ability to finally separate the top part from the backing, which means I'll be able to get somewhere, and I'm thrilled about that. So let me peel this off. So now I have this thin layer that's almost like tissue paper. I'm going to take my acrylic block and I'm going to put some of my Distress Pad inks on this acrylic block. I'm going to spritz it with water to activate it, and then I'm going to lightly press down this thin piece of tissue paper on top of it so I can get the colors that I originally was hoping to get on the pad when it was all still attached. And I'm finally getting somewhere, which is really relieving because I felt like all I was doing was making mud before. So I'm just adding colors to this very sheer light layer that I envision at some point will be a really cool texture on this project. And I'm mostly using Rusty Hinge Distress ink, and I think I'm using like a moss color distress ink as well. And then I added some brown. And now I'm just adding some water to activate that alcohol ink. And I'm adding some harder edges in with the pad. Now I'm going to grab some black India ink, and I'm just going to splatter a little bit of black India ink on there because I really want a couple places on that material to be sort of high contrast. So India ink is permanent. You got to be very careful with it. So I just have a little like a syringe, and I'm just going to suck a little up and put a little down. And that's about it. I mean, I'm really just playing around with making some interesting colors on this like kind of piece of tissue kind of material. And I'm fairly happy with how that came out. So now I'm going to work on this little piece. The coffee didn't really do too much. So I'm going to play around again here with some India inks as well. Not India inks. Some of my Tim Holtz distress pads. And I'm just, adding some color here and there. Going to put it on different parts. And then I'm going to try to activate it with some water and some alcohol. You're going to see that here. And I play around and futz around with this until I finally like it. And I remove color sometimes too, because I'm just not even sure where I'm going with this project. Okay, now I'm going to put that to a side, and I'm going to now add those same similar colors and to that little piece of paper I ripped out at the end, the little part from the rewards card, just so that I have similar colors and just an interesting little piece of paper that I can add into the project. I'm just adding a little bit of alcohol here to activate the alcohol inks. And since those pads are out, let me dull down this white chicken. That's right, I said white chicken. I've seen a lot of these challenges and people are complaining about what their friends or their husbands gave them. But really, have you guys ever worked with a chicken? Never mind the maxi pad, the little panty liner pad. I'm working with a chicken, a 3-dimensional chicken. So I'm just kind of adding some ink to it just to kind of dull it down, because I think that bright white chicken will stand out. Well, let's face it, it's going to stand out on anything anyway. I mean, that's ridiculous. So now we're going to work on gessoing these 2 pieces of paper. And if you don't know what gessoing is, it's adding like a thick paint to the outside. I couldn't find my regular gesso, so I ended up using this heavyweight acrylic white, which actually worked better than the gesso, so I was actually glad I found that. And I'm just covering both of these pieces of ephemera that I was given, just so that I can tone down the colors underneath them and prepare the surface so that I can put something more interesting on top of them. Do I know what I'm putting on top of them yet? No, I have no idea, but I'm going to at least cover them. And then I decided to cover the outside of the liner, and I think this is absolutely ridiculous what I'm doing. But then I start noticing this texture that's happening, and that's kind of really cool. Now, I have no idea if I'll use it, but hey, at this point, I can use all the help I can get. Well, I'm really in new territory, folks. I'm trying to get creative. So I have the little dog biscuit, and I have like a mortar and pestle from my kitchen that I use for herbs. And I'm grinding down the dog biscuit. Why am I grinding it down? Because I think I'm going to use it for texture. That's the only thing I can really think. At first I was thinking about making a stamp with it, but I don't really want a dog bone shape on this project, so I've decided to use it as texture. So I know that I have some of that texture stucco, the kind that you put on canvas, and I decide I'm going to make a little concoction of this stucco with the dog biscuit and some acrylic paint. And my thought process is I could mix this up and make a really thick texture paste that I can then lay down on that big piece of bumper sticker that I have left and make some really cool, interesting, I don't know, a background or texture. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I'm just trying to make this work. That is why it's called a challenge, and I am trying to rise to it. So now I make this concoction, and I'm going to apply it onto that remainder piece of the bumper sticker. And I'm just sort of making it, there's no rhyme or reason, I'm just trying to make it interesting. And now I'm putting it on like the business card piece too, but I decide not to cover all of the coffee beans that are still sticking out because I want them to kind of show. And I'm just really playing around with this texture paste that I made, and I think, wait a minute, what if I can put the chicken on this? I could stick the chicken in the paste and it will hold the chicken in place. And wait a minute, now I'm thinking it could be its nest. It could be its chicken nest. So I'm like, oh, I could paint it nest color. Now I'm getting somewhere. Does it make sense? Absolutely not. But this is something that I'm starting to see a glimmer of a direction. And I know that making this 3D and adding the chicken to it makes the most sense for this chicken. So now I'm excited. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sort of push this texture paste around and get the chicken in there. And, I'm going to add a little bit more acrylic paint and finish off this paste. I'll have 2 pieces with really good texture. I'll have these other pieces that are drying. And I might actually have a shot at making something here out of all these crazy things that I was given. So I'm just going to finish off this big piece, and then I'm going to just let everything dry because this stuff will take a long time to dry. And look at my mess and my new manicure. Okay, so I'm laying out all my pieces because I figure I'm going to take a break, maybe have lunch. And I decide to lay everything out on the, on my desk so it can dry over the next few hours. I'll do some things and then come back. And then I notice that I have that piece of rosemary that was from my friend's drink. And I'm like, where am I going to put that? And I'm thinking to myself, the texture paste is still like malleable. So if I want to put that in there, I should be doing that now. So I probably should think about it, but I really have no idea what my end project is yet. So I'm just kind of like playing around with it. And then it hits me. I could pick off all these little tiny sprigs and make the nest that the hen is sitting in. And that's what I start doing. I start picking off every little tiny sprig off of the stem and start placing it in the texture paste because the texture paste is wet and it's the perfect time to stick it in. And then I can let this all dry. And now I've incorporated that sprig. I mean, in this one little tiny card, I've incorporated the dog biscuit, the rewards card, the chicken, and the sprig. And I'm feeling just a little bit proud of myself. And I'm thinking this is going to be the focal point of this project. And that's going to really help me when I finally put all these things together. Now, I still don't know exactly what I'm doing, but having a focal point means I actually have a shot of making something out of these crazy items. Hi friends, I am back. It's the next day. I had to let my items dry and I am now really excited to try to make something out of our pieces or the pieces I was given. So I ended up getting the 2 pieces of graph paper are now dry and they've been tea or coffee stained and I'm only allowed 1. This one has a really tiny blue check and this one has a bigger green check. I don't know which one I'm going to use, but when I do, then I'll put the other one aside. I really have tried not to think about this project because I really want to see if I can figure it out as I go. But I have to admit, last night I kept thinking about this darn chicken and funny little things kept coming into my head for sentiments like, don't let the turkeys ruffle your feathers, or surround yourself with just the good eggs, or you're a good egg, or sometimes you have to say, what the cluck. So I'm now wondering if I'm going to try to use those sentiments in the project. We will see, but that's really all I've thought about. I'm going to start now by thinking about the layout, what I could do. And this, it reminds me of a sun, and the chickens come up at the sunrise. I know this because my neighbors have chickens and it wakes me up. And So I was thinking it might be cute to have the sun poking out, and I hate this edge. So the first thing I'm going to do, I don't think I can tear it because of the, oh, I can tear it. I was going to say because of the material and because of the texture paste, but I think I might be able to tear it. And I was thinking if I tear it, maybe I can layer it and have the sunshine kind of peek out. And then I thought maybe this would be a layer too. So I don't want to use too much of this because if I don't like it, I'm gonna need a bigger piece. So let me just peel a piece off. And again, I probably shouldn't be peeling till I know what I'm doing, but I was thinking it might look good behind the chicken. And you know what? It looks like chicken wire behind the chicken, which is kind of cool. So then if I layered that with the sun coming up, that might be really, that might actually make sense. Let me see if I like the other grid paper better. I like this coffee piece here, so let me rip that there. My husband's reaction when he came home from work yesterday and saw the stuff drying in the bathroom was priceless. He is used to me doing a lot of things with a lot of materials, but not this might have been more than what he ever could wrap his head around. Okay, so let's put that on there. I think I like the other one better just as a crafter or an artist. I think this will go better with the project. So what I want to do now is, obviously I'm not going to leave all this texture white or this tag white. So the next step for me will be adding some color to the texture. So I'm going to start first with the chicken. Chickens make their nests, or usually have their nests, in straw. So I think I'm going to need some golds. I'm just using my Arteza watercolors, nothing too fancy. I'm going to put some water on colors I think I may use. I'm going to have to use some blues to bring in the blues of that on the sunshine. I definitely want my usual browns, golds, oranges, rusts, things like that. And I'm going to start with the gold. I'm going to start with trying to put some, let me see if I can zoom in a little. So I'm going to take the watercolors and I'm going to fill in yellows and golds and straw-like colors around the hen. I'll also bring in some of the rusts and the greens, sort of play off their little rosemary twig, and to just, you know, kind of make it look a little bit more rustic. This texture paste really absorbs color well, so it's a breeze to cover up all this texture with the watercolors. And I have to say, as I'm doing this, last night I put on the YouTube and used the hashtag for this challenge just to see what other people were doing. And I was amazed at how many items people used that they actually were able to fit into their own aesthetic and then use in their journals. I am not sure this little project will be that for me. I mean, it's cute, but it's really not, you know, I'm not sure that a three-dimensional chicken and some of these colors are really going to fit in, or the style, but it's still interesting. And as you can see, I'm going to show you up close. This how easily the texture paste really takes the watercolors. I mean, I really do like that. If nothing else, I would consider making a texture paste again, maybe next time with sand, and really does make some really interesting textures. And I wouldn't have gone so heavy if I didn't have the chicken to account for. So I'm just going to go around, and as I'm doing this, I'm kind of thinking about that center space that's kind of light, right? The place that has the area behind the chicken. And I've added some gold on the top because I want the sun to be coming from the top, and I want it to be like the sun rays are coming down from the top. So now I'm going to do the bigger piece, and I'm not really sure what colors I should be doing on the bigger piece, so I'm kind of putting that piece of graph paper behind it so I can kind of get a sense. And I think I'll do more like grounding colors at the bottom, like the darker colors, rusts and browns, you know, kind of like the area that the chicken's hutch or nest is in. It's not really a nest, right? Chickens don't make nests. Is it a roost? What is the official term for something that the chicken lays their eggs in? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe a chicken person can write it in the box below. And I'm going to do mostly like sunlight and blue sky, probably towards the top, and hope that that will work. And obviously I'm speeding up and putting a voiceover because this took me much longer than a video should be. So I'm going to cut and edit it down so that you get the point. So I'm just putting on the golds and I'm blotting it so it looks like dappled sunlight. And now I'm just going to try on that little piece of like graph paper. And the next step will be to work on the bumper sticker and to take that piece that has the sunshine on it and start adding some watercolor so it blends better with the piece the textured piece I just painted. I want all the colors to be very similar and have a similar look. The alcohol inks worked, but they weren't that strong. And I'm actually surprised at how well the watercolor is taking to this bumper sticker. And I'm going to get this finished up and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so let's see if I can condense some of the other steps. Here I'm painting the bottom of the reward ticket that I had ripped with the little blue circles. And then I had this idea that it kind of looks like a window or a crack in the hutch, the chicken hutch. So I think I'm going to paint a little farm scene in the background so that it looks like the chicken is sitting on its nest. I'm going to call it a nest. In front of a window that shows the rest of the farm. So I'm going to paint some green hills and even a little red barn. So let me see if I can pull this in a little closer so that you can see that up close. It's not that this is, I mean, I'm not an expert painter here. I'm painting literally on a rewards card with dog biscuit texture paint. So this is no Mona Lisa, folks. This is just a little rendering of a little barn in farm scene that will be in the back of the chicken. Okay, so I'm just putting this little piece of video in to show that I was working a lot with the feminine napkin. In fact, there's so much footage that I have deleted of me trying to figure out how I can possibly work with any part of that sucker, and you know who you are, who put that in the bag. Thanks a lot. So then I'm just basically going to be stacking and restacking and playing around with the composition and trying to figure out how I'm going to make this into something cohesive that isn't just one big mother clucking mess. Let's just call it that. Shall we just call it that? And finally, I settle on what I think is going to be an okay composition. And as you recall, the bumper sticker is a bumper sticker, which means that it has a sticky back, which also means I can peel the back off and stick it right to the big piece of paper, graph paper that I had, which is really exciting because that means that there's not any glue that I have to use, which is doubly exciting, right? And it was a pretty decent sized piece of graph paper, thankfully. So I'm just going to stick it on, and now that's going to really become the back of my tag. And I feel like, okay, now I'm in business. So now I think the top of the tag needs a little bit of reinforcement. So I'm going to take the back of the bumper sticker I just used, and I'm going to make a tag tab. Those of you who are used to making tags know what this is. My friends who have never seen me work before are probably have no idea what I'm doing. And I just staple it on, and then I add some color because I don't really know what I'm going to do up here, but I don't like it to stay white. I want it to blend with the rest of the tag. And I'm just going to blot it just a little bit. So now I'm playing around with that sun and playing around with my layout again. I've probably played with the layout by the time this project is done about 85 times. And here I am messing with the pad again. Whoever gave me this was the bane of my existence. Every other piece that I was given was not nearly as painful as trying to figure out something to do with this pad. So now I'm going to use it like fabric, and I decide to take a strip of it, and I'm going to put it at the bottom of the tag. And I think, okay, this looks all right. I think this has some possibilities. Maybe I can finally use a piece of this pad and here. Now keep in mind with a challenge, I don't like the materials I'm using necessarily. I have to use the materials. So normally when we are doing a project, right, if we don't like how something's looking, we just don't use it, or we flip to a different material. I mean, we don't have to agonize on making something work. And that's part of what this challenge is about, and part of why challenges are important, is because when you have to make something work, you have to think outside of the box. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually take it to my sewing machine. That's where you saw me just take it. And now it's sewn. I sewed all the way around my tag, and I have another piece of that pad again, and I'm going to find another use for it. I'm going to throw some stitches in it, and I'm going to use it as height for the chicken. And by using it as height for the chicken, when I glue down the chicken, it gives it dimension, and I'm able to put other items under the chicken. The chicken stands out like it's more three-dimensional, and it gives me the option to then play with the pieces on the right-hand side and underneath in a different way. So if nothing else, I used the stinking pad there, but I also did use it on the bottom, and I think you saw there's some stitching from my sewing machine in it. Okay, so now we're taking the next step here. We are taking the right-hand side. I'm taking a little piece of ledger, and then that little ripped piece of the rewards tag, and I'm making a little collage on the right-hand side, kind of adding that little mixed media element to it. And by folding it, I can have graph on one side and plain paper on the other side. And I'm just sort of using the end of my paintbrush to make sure I can stick it to the back. And because of that little buffer I put there with that little folded piece of pad, it's all three-dimensional. And then I typed out "live like a chicken" on my typewriter, and I'm putting that little sentiment right there. Yeah, and nobody knows what "live like a chicken" means, but you will. So sometimes, like when you're doing something, things kind of move, and the sun moved to the top, and I really liked that. I liked the space, giving it some air between the chicken and the sun. So I'm happy with that. So because it was a bumper sticker, I was able to peel it off and stick it to the top. And then I'm just going to put that remaining piece of graph paper, I'm going to glue it to the back of the tag, which will give it structure, and it will cover up all the nasty stuff in the back. So now I'm taking a little bit of acrylic paint, and I'm making a wash out of it, and I'm taking a special little splatter brush, and I'm going to splatter some white paint here and there and everywhere, and I'm putting a little bit of the pad all in front of the chicken to protect the chicken from getting splattered. So see, I keep using that pad. So see, I'm making the challenge work. So why do we splatter paint? Just to kind of give it a little bit, another layer, another dimension, another added mixed media element. And now I'm using my fingernail polish. Yay. I think it was called Coming in Hot, and it's kind of like a coppery gold. And just going to put that little, I'm going to slice it into like a little rectangle. And I'm going to put that on that little collage to the right. Again, a little bling, a little place for your eye to land, a little enhancement to that focal piece, that focal point, which is the chicken. And now I have that big piece that's going to go in the back and the little pieces which I will type the sentiment on. You won't see me gluing that big piece on because I don't need to waste any more time. This video is long enough. These little pieces have their sentiment typed on now. I'm going to rip them out, and I'm going to then take the sentiments and try to find something to put on the back of them to make them stand out. And I go back to the pad because that's the only thing I have material left to use. And it's been painted so many times now that certainly if I put these on top of the pad, it's going to make them stand out. And the reason I don't just glue them on the back is because they're the exact same color as the paper on the back, because I only got one piece of graph paper and there's no contrast. They're not going to stand out. You're not really going to see them. So I was able to separate the last piece of pad from the backing, which I think you saw. And now I'm just ripping and cutting, and I'm inking the edges to make them stand out even a little bit more. And you're going to see me put the sentiment or the writing on each piece of pad, and then each one of those little clusters I'm going to then put on the back of the tag. So they all fit, and boy, I used so much more of the pad than I even thought I could. So I really think I did a good job using the items in this project. So now my last little touches, I took out a gold pen and just kind of put in some gold highlights. I took out one of my white Sakura pens and put in a little bit of white scribbling, again, just adding a little bit more dimension. I took out my gilding paste and put gold all around the edges of the tag. If you're going to make a chicken tag, you might as well go full force and embrace it and gild that lily. So finally, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gild the chicken and add a lot of gold to the chicken just so it blends in a little bit more. You've heard of the goose that lays the golden egg. Apparently this is the gold chicken that sits on a maxi pad. So now we are wiping just a little bit of that gold off, and I'm adding a hole. I'm going to put in a gold eyelet. I think that's allowed. Since staples and sewing is allowed, I would assume that would be allowed. And I just want to put like a piece of like garden twine to kind of give that rustic look to the tag. And a tag has to hang after all, so I had to put in a piece of twine, which I put here. Here it is in all its glory. My chicken challenge tag. I had 7 ridiculous items, and I think I succeeded. I think I hit every single one. Let's count them together, shall we? Starting at the top, the bumper sticker. That was number 1. Number 2 was the dog biscuit, which I used for all the texture. Number 3 was the rewards card that the chicken sits on. Number 4 was the chicken. Number 5 was the rosemary sprig. Number 6 was the piece of nail polish, stick-on nail polish. And number 7 was the illustrious pad, the bane of my existence. Does it work? I don't know, but I had fun doing it. I really had fun doing it. It took me out of my comfort zone. It really made me think. It made me laugh. And I hope you guys had fun watching this. It was absolutely ridiculous. And to my friends, Maria, Linda, Kim, and Rachel, I am going to be living like a chicken. I hope you will too. I thank you guys for picking these items. And as far as whether I'll use this tag or not, oh, I will. the next birthday girl gets this on their present so you know who you are. Now I'm supposed to nominate 3 more YouTubers to do this. And I'm going to nominate Jutta from Funkelkram, if I said that right. I think her and her hubby will have a wonderful time with this. Nellie and Ruth, I'm nominating you, Barbie. And Jenny, May, June, I think this is totally in your wheelhouse. I hope you guys had fun. Remember just to take a chance and create something. I so appreciate you stopping by and joining this crazy little journey today. See you next time. Bye.